So I wanted to read to you this. This is an old John saying, and I love it. The wise enshrine the miraculous bones of the ancients within their body. I'll read that again, okay? The wise enshrine the miraculous bones of the ancients within their bodies. So what does that mean? Does anybody know what that means? I don't know what it means. So in the West, what we've learned to do is we've learned to take in, let's say, not to put down any religion at all. But we memorize the dogma, don't we? We memorize, the Ten Commandments, or we memorize all of the teaching, and it goes into this mind. And then it's a kind of a dogma, and it's kind of, it's like something that we operate out on. But what Buddhism is teaching us is that the true way of embracing the Dharma is to let it seep into your body, let it seep into your bones, let it seep into the essence of what you are. How do you do that and hold on to Nancy and Sage and Callie? How does it seep into your bones if you're clinging to this separation that, I am something separate? It can't be done. The presence of a David or a Greg or a Victor, the presence of that keeps everything out. And and yet we're perfectly happy to let the mind absorb all these teachings, right? So I can memorize everything in the world, right? I can memorize the Dharma, right? So I can memorize the Eightfold Path, I can memorize the Four Noble Truths, I can memorize what we did on Wednesdays, right? The 5 skandhas, which are amazing. But they're all memorized. It isn't in the bones. It's not in the marrow. It's not it's not taking us inside, because there's this part of us that stands out, separate, and to some extent we will not let that ever take us over. I've always thought of, like in the West particularly, I don't know if this is true in the East, but we have this huge reaction to a cult, right? We think about Jimmy Jones, we think about people taking the Kool-Aid, and you think about it. I mean, there are a couple of teachers, and there are, what was it, the one recently where people died in the sweat lodge? Just astounding. And so I think that it's scary for us, that idea of enshrining the bones of the ancients within us. I think it scares us. It scares us that to let go of ourselves and become something new that we don't know, right? And yet, if you look at it, it's a real paradox, isn't it? Because in other words, that caution that we're trying very hard to hold on to, to keep ourselves from being sucked into something. That very caution is also the ego's fear of being taken over, and the ego's fear of losing itself. There's the teacher that I love in the Chan tradition is the Da Wei, and he was maybe 500 years after Bodhidharma. So, and when he now this is a guy who worked real hard, right? He went from teacher to teacher, and he studied, and he did very, very well, and he'd gotten really, really, pretty high on the food chain in terms of the Dharma, but he had not awakened, not totally awakened. So he found, someone recommended that he go to this, the teacher that he ended up with. And so he decided to go there and give this guy a shot. Now, I think he was in his 30s and maybe 40s when this happened. Here's what he said. I'll make 9 summers the time limit. 9 summers. Think about that. I'll just give it. I'll just give it 9 years. That's all I'm willing to give it. And he had been practicing the Bodhidharma for years and years and years. So he says, I'll just give it 9 more years. And if there's no difference in this, and I find no difference in this place, and he said, and if I find that this teacher falsely thinks that he's right, then he says, I'm just going to give it up and just think that there's just nothing to John. I'll just get the whole thing up. And he said, I might as well just study the scriptures, right? Because he says that would be better than wasting any more time. So, he did experience a profound awakening. And I would say that in experiencing profound awakening, he enshrined the bones of the ancients within himself. Yeah? So how many of us are willing to give 9 years? 5 years? Or what is your limit on what you would be willing to give totally, every bit of yourself to this? Would it be an all-day retreat? Well, I'll give it, from 9 until 5. I understand they're going to 5:30 today. Well, that's a big stretch. But I'll give it that. I'll give it from 9 to 5:30, right? But if those bones of the ancients have not, the miraculous bones, if they're not enshrined in my body by then, you can just, So, I love that this man, this brilliant man, and this man who, that is the level of his dedication. I'll give it 9 summers. And if I really think the teacher's just full of shit, after 9 summers, I'm going to give it up. I'm going to quit it. Right? So I would like to invite you to consider that if you're not really willing to commit yourself in a similar fashion, you might take up some other hobby, right? Swimming, whatever. Swimming is good. It's good for the body. I think that it is true, though, that is a statement of how dedicated we have to be to this practice.